Part 7. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kiseun Jeon. Chapter 61. It is unrealistic to hypnotize a person instantly. This is not writing a novel or making a movie. Looking at Yuen Quiling on the sofa, Professor Chien's expression was very solemn. I was able to succeed because she had been hypnotized for a long time in the past, which made her defense against the hypnotist very weak. As long as some hypnotic guidance is carried out, she can enter a hypnotic state. The reason why I said she has been hypnotized for a long time is very simple. Because the subjects who have just come into contact with hypnosis can only enter a shallow hypnotic state at first, even if the hypnosis is successful. Only those who have been hypnotized for a long time will enter a moderate hypnotic state or a deep hypnotic state little by little. And her performance. Professor Chien pointed at Yuen Quiling. She is in a moderate hypnotic state. As long as the guidance continues, she can easily enter a deep hypnotic state. So that's it, Lin Xian understood what Professor Chien wanted to express. It's like a bathhouse in northeast China. It would be embarrassing to see a group of people naked together for the first time. Especially when you are scrubbing your body, the master of the bathhouse will hold a lamp to clean your body for you. I will be so ashamed that I want to roll on the ground. Humans are creatures of habit. The first time I was shy, the second time I was embarrassed, the third time I was calm, and the fourth time, I got used to it. I felt it was normal, it was nothing, everyone looked the same, why should I be ashamed? Hypnosis is almost the same. If you never adapt, you can only enter a shallow hypnotic state. Slowly, you can enter a deep hypnotic state. It takes a process. It shows that Yuen Quiling was often hypnotized for a long time, which led to the current situation. So, is there an answer to the so-called ghost pressing on the bed? Is it possible that Yuen Quiling was not being pressed on the bed by a ghost? But she was hypnotized, so she had those hallucinations. And the death of her husband. Mr. Chien, can hypnosis kill people? Lin Xian asked the key question, for example, can it cause cardiac arrest or respiratory failure? In a moment. Professor Chien's face was no longer calm, and he nodded heavily, yes. Damn, Lin Xian and Ji Yang were shocked, even horrified. No matter what it is, it has both good and bad sides, like a double-edged sword. Professor Chien explained, medicine can save people, but if it kills people, it is more terrifying than anything else. The same is true for hypnosis. Some powerful hypnotists can indeed kill people without being seen. There are many ways to use hypnosis to cause a person's heart to stop or their respiratory system to fail. For example, when a subject is hypnotized, the practitioner uses hypnosis to induce the subject to think that he is in a cold place. The subject will be induced to the body functions change, and the core body temperature drops rapidly if the patient mistakenly thinks that the patient is in a cold place. When the body temperature drops to 35 degrees Celsius or lower, hypothermia will occur, which will slow down the blood flow in the human body and may cause cardiac arrest. For example, the patient is induced by the practitioner to mistakenly think that he is in the water. In the subconscious mind, water can kill him and he cannot breathe in the water. When in this hypnotic state, the patient can easily suffer from respiratory failure and then die due to holding his breath. Long experienced, Lin Xian suddenly realized. He looked at Ji Yang. The cause of death of Yuen Quiling's husband has been found. As for why the police and forensic doctors in the Magic City did not find it at the beginning, it has been explained before. How many people can think that someone is using hypnosis to commit crimes? Hypnosis has touched the knowledge blind spots of too many people. Who can think that hypnosis can really kill people invisibly? Are there many hypnotists who can do this? Lin Xian's hairs are all blown up. After rebirth, although his body is outrageously strong. The problem is, hypnosis looks scary. No matter how powerful your physical attack is, you will be defeated by magic. What if you are hypnotized without knowing it? Maybe your head will fall off before you react. Are you afraid? Don't worry. Professor Chien looked at the little guy's face and smiled. Hypnosis is magical, but not that magical. No hypnotist can hypnotize others at will. All sleep can be successful only with a prerequisite. The subject must be in a state of full cooperation, open his heart without reservation, and obey the hypnotist's command before hypnosis can be performed and hypnosis can be successful. Don't be fooled by the plot in the movie that hypnotizes people and strangers instantly. Every time we hypnotists see this kind of movie plot, our teeth are about to fall out of laughter. It's too brainless. Is this the so-called director, rubbing the audience's head on the ground? As an ordinary person who has just come into contact with hypnosis and barely understands the hypnosis process, what else could Lin Xian and Ji Yang do except to say MMP in their hearts? They were also the ones who were rubbed on the ground by the movie. And Professor Qian's words gave them a clue. All the hypnotized people. They were all those who opened their hearts without reservation, cooperated, and took the initiative to be hypnotized by the hypnotist. You can also understand it this way. Yuan Qiling and her husband were both voluntarily hypnotized at the beginning, including the night watchman at the funeral home. So can you think so? Have these people seen the hypnotist? No. Lin Xian frowned. If I were the hypnotist, how could I expose myself? Through the other party's methods of committing crimes, it can be felt that this person is very smart and has a very high IQ. So, Mr. Qian, I have another question. Lin Xian asked, is there any way to hypnotize the person being hypnotized without the hypnotist having contact with them? Professor Qian. He looked at Lin Xian quietly, his eyes were very strange. That look seemed to be caring for a mentally disabled patient. Damn it, Lin Xian almost couldn't help but punch the old man in the face. Forget it, we are civilized people and never like to fight and kill. Maybe I didn't make it clear. Lin Xian smiled awkwardly. I mean, can a hypnotist remotely control and perform hypnosis? For example, use remote calls or remote videos to perform remote hypnosis. The smile on Professor Qian's face began to falter, and his expression gradually became serious. Theoretically, it's possible. If the caster wants to hypnotize the subject, sometimes he may need some props and environment. But it is mainly through words and some professional hypnosis techniques. And these can all be realized during remote calls or videos. Therefore, in theory, it is possible to hypnotize others remotely. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. A clue appears. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 62. At this time, Lin Xian and Ji Yang were watching Professor Qian and hypnotizing Yuan Qiling more deeply. You are very relaxed now, standing in the sun. The temperature is very good, very comfortable. Following Professor Qian's words, Yuan Qiling's face showed a look of comfort, pleasure, and enjoyment. Breathing is also very smooth. Professor Qian looked at Lin Xian at this time and nodded, indicating that it was time to start. May I have your name? Lin Xian made his voice gentle and slow, as if talking to someone close to him. This is what Professor Qian taught him. He also taught him some hypnosis, induction and other techniques. My name is Yuan Qiling. Yuan Qiling replied softly. From this tone and voice, no one could tell that they were hypnotized at all. It seemed like a person with a clear mind, normal cognition, and stable emotions was speaking. Where does your family live? My family lives in. Do you know you were hypnotized? Hypnosis. Yuan Qiling's eyes were closed, her expression seemed a little confused. What is that? Was he hypnotized without knowing it? The people present frowned. So, Lin Xian asked softly, have you and your husband come into contact with anyone recently, Et. Before he could finish asking. When Yuan Qiling heard the word husband, she seemed to recall something. Her body suddenly began to tremble violently. And her eyes, even through her eyelids. You can also see a pair of eyeballs shaking rapidly. It seems that these two words have some kind of magic. Her emotions started to get out of control. It seems as if he is about to wake up from the hypnotic state at any time. Don't be nervous, don't think about bad things, relax, you are safe now, and your husband is fine. Lin Xian's expression changed, but the words in his mouth were still so gentle and slow, and he stretched out his hand. He gently patted Yuan Qiling's head, as if conveying some kind of stabilizing power. A magical scene appears. Under Lin Xian's comfort, Yuan Qiling, who was a little out of control, gradually regained her composure. Ji Yang, who was on the side, was already stunned and his eyes were straight. Are you playing the role of me? Is hypnosis so magical? Professor Qian looked at Lin Xian with complex eyes, his eyes gradually brightened and heated. It's a pity that this little guy doesn't study psychology or hypnotism. Mr. Qian is tempted to recruit students. How could he know that Lin Xian was such a genius and such a monster? But after Lin Xian was reborn, he had the ability of photographic memory. As long as he sees what others teach him, he cannot learn it in one go. But you can memorize it by rote, forcibly transfer it to your memory bank, and then imitate it. Follow the cat and draw the tiger. My husband, are you okay? Yuan Qiling murmured. It's okay, what you saw was just a dream. Lin Xian looked at Professor Qian while comforting him. He found the old man smiling happily and nodded to him. It means you have done well and you can continue. Why is this old man looking so weird? What is he going to do? Lin Xian was confused and continued to say softly to Yuan Qiling, yes, it's all a dream, don't worry about your husband. Now, you have to recall it, you past experiences with your husband. Yuan Qiling tilted her head, with a look of memories on her face. You used to live together and live a happy life together. Happy life. It's like this. You still have many hobbies and friends, you have a friend who speaks very nicely. You and your husband both like him. A friend. Yes, this friend should be very powerful. He can teach you to relax your body, teach you to become happy physically and mentally, and be willing to do something according to his words. My friend, it seems, I have such a friend. Yes, that's him. Lin Xian's eyes widened instantly, and his voice became softer and gentle, as if coaxing a child. Think about it, how did you and your husband talk to this friend in the past? What way, to talk? Yuan Qiling tried hard to remember, and her words began to break off. It should be, 3 months ago, someone added my husband's QQ claiming to be my husband's high school classmate. 3 months ago? High school classmates? Take the initiative to join QQ. Lin Xian and Ji Yang narrowed their eyes and thought of many possibilities. It's this classmate. Lin Xian continued to induce words. What happened next? Later. Yuan Qiling pondered for a moment. My husband and he had a good chat, we were very happy, and we even videotaped. So in the video, did you see the other person? I saw it. Hey, I can't remember what he looks like. You can't remember? Lin Xian's expression changed and he looked at Mr. Qian again. Professor Qian's expression also changed slightly. After thinking for a while, he nodded. Said, hypnosis can do it? Well, I can't remember what he looks like, but... Yuan Qiling closed her eyes and smiled. His home is very beautiful and attractive. By the way, every time my husband and him have a video call, he can hear music playing there, which is very nice and makes people feel good. Professor Qian's face turned ugly, and he said to Lin Xian, hypnosis props and music assistance. Sometimes hypnotizing a person requires a specific environment, and some props and music are needed as assistance. These props and music can make people relax, let down their guard, and reduce psychological defenses. It is easier to hypnotize a person. According to Yuen Quilling's description, the environment where the perpetrator is located should have hypnosis props prepared. The nice music that makes people feel good is assisting hypnosis. It is highly likely to be confirmed. The perpetrator used remote video to hypnotize Yuen Quilling and her husband. But if it is remote hypnosis, he can't hypnotize the subject 24 hours a day, right? Professor Chien was puzzled. If you want to instruct the subject to do something, you must be around to induce it? Yes, Lin Xian also felt strange about this. So is there a way to command the patient anytime and anywhere even if you are not around? I still remember Yuen Quilling's narration. On the night when she had the sleep paralysis, she suddenly woke up from her dream. It is very likely that the perpetrator used some method at that time. Put the couple into a hypnotic state. Mobile phone? QQ? WeChat? They all need someone to answer the call to communicate, so it shouldn't be. Lin Xian turned around and looked around Yuen Quilling's home. All the furniture, home appliances, items, all looked at. Suddenly, his pupils jumped violently a few times. His sight was fixed on an object. Is it this? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 63. In the bedroom. A smart speaker is placed on the bed cabinet. It has many functions. Can connect to the internet, voice control, remote control. Lin Xian stared at the speaker for a long time. Return to the living room. Looking at the hypnotized Yuen Quilling, she asked, "Did you and your wife buy the smart speaker in the bedroom?" "No." Yuen Quilling shook her head. "My husband's classmate gave it to us." "Woohoo!" Lin Xian had a sarcastic smile on his lips. "Is it it? It just so happens that this speaker is placed in the bedroom. Suppose someone uses the speaker to connect to the internet for remote control. Is it possible to control a couple who has been hypnotized for a long time?" "Can." Professor Chien gave an affirmative answer. If the subject is under long-term hypnosis, there is no need to use auxiliary tools. The practitioner can guide the subject into a hypnotic state with just words. This is like an old couple. Husband slaps his wife on the butt. My wife just knows how to change her position. Something is imprinted on the mind and body. Just one action, one word, one inducement. It's that simple. The so-called ghost on the bed incident is just a joke. Not a demon slaying, but a murder. As for the other two suspected supernatural incidents, Lin Xian no longer needed to investigate. The so-called future murder cases are 4 supernatural events involved in the comic. It should all be man-made. Later, Professor Chien released Yuen Quilling from hypnosis. When the woman woke up, she remembered nothing. She had no idea that she had just experienced hypnosis. "I found the ghost you were looking for you." Lin Xian looked at Yuen Quilling, whose expression changed drastically. "There are no ghosts in this world, the person who killed your husband was a human." Then, tell about Yuen Quilling and her wife being hypnotized. Her husband's classmate was the murderer. There was no ghost on the bed. What she saw were all post-hypnotic hallucinations. His husband did not die of cardiac arrest or respiratory failure, but died of hypnosis. Tell it to Yuen Quilling exactly as it is. How can it be? Yuen Quilling had a pale face and couldn't accept it. How could it be him, my husband's classmate? Ji Yang took out the smart speaker in the bedroom. Place it in front of her. Yuen Quilling simply couldn't accept that she would be controlled by the speakers. Only then did ghost pressure appear. And her husband was also killed because of this speaker. It's like a fantasy. Yes. If Lin Xian hadn't thought of hypnosis, the Special Criminal Case Task Force would have invited Professor Qian from the capital. Who would have thought that hypnosis could be so terrifying? This is why the police who handled the case of Ghost on the Bed at that time could not find any clues. Who would have thought at that time that someone was controlling the speakers to kill people? This kind of killing method, when you don't know it, is hypnosis. No matter how powerful the police is, can you find clues at the scene? Sudden. I'm curious. Lin Xian stared straight at the smart speaker. What is your purpose? Ji Yang, Mr. Qian, and Yuan Qiling were all stunned. The expression and eyes seemed to ask, who are you talking to? Lin Xian did not explain. His eyes were still looking directly at the smart speaker, looking at the reminder light showing that it was working. About 20 seconds. Suddenly. You actually discovered it? A low, hoarse voice, cold and ruthless, slowly sounded from the speaker. It was a woman's voice. But after hearing her words, it was as if there was a cold snake entangled in everyone's heart, making it impossible for people to break away. Everyone was shocked. He also guessed who was speaking. They stared at the speaker and looked at Lin Xian in surprise. How did he find out? Don't think that you are the only smart person and treat others as fools. Lin Xian sneered, are you worthy? If I don't deserve it, why did you police find me now? The woman's words were so sarcastic. If I hadn't been discovered by you, the other police officers wouldn't even be qualified to talk to me, would they? What's the point of saying this? I still found you. Lin Xian sneered, if I can find it, I will definitely find you. Ha ha. The other party laughed unbridled, as if he heard a joke. Okay, I hope you find me soon, otherwise, someone will die. The speaker suddenly became silent. It was as if no one ever spoke through the speakers. No, she is not my husband's classmate, her voice is wrong. Yuan Qiling screamed, my husband's classmate is a man. Yeah. Lin Xian looked away from the speaker and looked at her, then can you still remember the appearance of your husband's classmates? Yuan Qiling was stunned on the spot as if struck by lightning. She found that not only could she not remember, but she could not even remember the voice of that classmate. It was her subconscious mind that was telling her that the other person was a man, not a woman. Why is this happening? This is hypnosis. Lin Xian said, not only can it control you, but it can also change your memory and make you forget some things. Why is this happening? Why? Yuan Qiling was trembling all over, her spirit seemed to be out of control again, she kept muttering and roaring from time to time. You are very tired now, don't think about it anymore, take a rest first. Professor Qian couldn't bear it, and patted Yuan Qiling on the forehead. He then began to use words to comfort her and hypnotize her again. But this time, he just hypnotized Yuan Qiling to sleep. Let her stay away from grief temporarily. Lin Xian sighed, and Ji Yang also looked reluctant. But there was no way, they were just policemen, not gods. And what they could do was to bring the bad guys to justice. Let those criminals get the punishment they deserve. When Yuan Qiling's relatives arrived, the three left. In the police car, Lin Xian asked Professor Qian, Mr. Qian, what do you think is the psychology of bad people in this world? In psychology, there are many kinds of bad people. Professor Qian sighed, there are indeed people who are born bad. We call them patients with super male syndrome. As policemen, you know that some children kill and set fires, and do all kinds of evil. This is super male syndrome. They are born demons, born bad. But born bad is not scary. What is scary is the bad people who are cultivated. Because when such people become bad, they are almost all adults who have learned to disguise. They will hide under the mask of hypocrisy, making it difficult for people to find them. They are the real bad people, the devils in the world. As for their psychology, Professor Qian sighed, sometimes you don't need a reason to do bad things. Don't need a reason. Endless frost appeared on Lin Xian's cheeks, and his eyes flashed with icy coldness, then let them die. Suddenly, the phone rang, and Wang Meng, the leader of the special criminal case team, called. Lin Xian answered the call before he could speak. Wang Meng's voice came quickly. Something happened, come back quickly. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Qixiun. Chapter 64. Shanghai Municipal Public Security Bureau, left outside. What happened? Lin Xian and Ji Yang quickly walked closer. All the members of the Special Criminal Case Task Force are here. Their eyes fell on Wang Meng. Come in first and then talk. Wang Meng waved to Lin Xian and pushed open the detention room door. Children, do you have a lot of question marks? Lin Xian is indeed full of question marks. When he walked into the detention room, he saw the scene inside. Stunned. The suspect Bai Wenhua was sitting on a chair. There is an electronic drawing board that looks like an oversized tablet on the dining table in front of me. At this time, Bai Wenhua's expression was very wrong. His eyes were crazy and hot, like burning flames. It was as if something was constantly eating away at his sanity. Let him fall into endless madness. He seemed to be painting, but sometimes he was dancing, and sometimes he was laughing hysterically and very horribly. In the silent detention room, it looks particularly strange. Lin Xian glanced at Bai Wenhua in surprise. His eyes moved and looked at the electronic drawing board. It should be something only for cartoonists. The price of this electronic drawing tablet ranges from a few hundred yuan to tens of thousands of yuan. It wasn't the drawing board that caught Lin Xian's attention. But, the comics on the drawing board? Sudden. His pupils shrank. In the cartoon, a terrifying scene is being drawn. A man was standing in a dark room filled with an eerie atmosphere. There was no light in the entire space, as if there was only endless darkness and cold. It makes people feel depressed and suffocated. What is terrifying is that the man is holding a utility knife in his hand. There were countless bloody stab wounds on his face and chest. The body was covered in blood. The scariest thing is, the man is holding up the utility knife in his hand, and cutting his own neck. This cartoon looks like a person is committing suicide. But what's strange is the man's face. His eyes were wide open, filled with fear and despair. Fear written all over his face. That look was like seeing the most terrifying thing in the world. It's like looking from the comics to outside the comics. Facing this face, goosebumps suddenly appeared on Lin Xian's body. Feel a visceral sense of horror. There was actually an illusion. The man in the comic is looking at himself. Plop. The sound of heavy objects falling to the ground woke Lin Xian. Turn around and look. Bai Wenhua fell to the ground, motionless, and passed out. The detention room door opens. Two doctors in white coats ran over and lifted the unconscious Bai Wenhua. Lin Xian moved his eyes and looked at the electronic drawing board again. Stare at the comics. My brain was running wildly, and a possibility suddenly occurred to me. Fifth horror story. Lin Xian expressed his guess. Right. Wang Meng's expression turned ugly. This is why I asked you to come back. Why? Because of this murder that predicts the future. Whenever Bai Wenhua draws a horror story. 7 days later. In reality, it will all be very coincidental, and it will appear exactly like in the comics. Death event. In this case, why let him touch the drawing board? Lin Xian did not ask this question. Because I remembered Bai Wenhua's crazy state just now. You can probably guess it. Something must have happened to Bai Wenhua at that time. The police were forced to bring in a drawing board. Let him draw the fifth horror story. How's your investigation going? Wang Meng looked at Lin Xian. He was asking about the ghost bed incident. Artificial, hypnotic. Lin Xian's tone was calm and calm. The perpetrator has appeared. Wang Meng. For a moment, my head was empty, and I was a little dazed for a moment. I almost doubt that I am still dreaming. Lin Xian reported the results of his investigation into the ghost bed incident. When Wang Meng heard that someone was using hypnosis and speakers to kill people, gasped. When he learned that Lin Xian discovered that the perpetrator used a speaker to eavesdrop, Wang Meng had a puzzled expression on his face. How did he know there was something wrong with the speakers? Guess. Lin Xian shrugged. If I were him, I would do the same. This is related to IQ and brain. Like playing games. Both masters and novices are junglers. Experts will hunt in the jungle, capture people, and push towers at the same time. It's different with rookies. His house was stolen, and he's still wandering around in the wild. This little brother really has a few brushes. Wang Meng was amazed. The look he looked at Lin Xian seemed to be sizing up a monster. I was deeply shocked by my little brother's investigative ability. Is this really just a young superintendent who just became a full-time police officer? You continue to dig deeper along the clues. Wang Meng said, we will handle this ourselves. Useless. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. It should be impossible to find out. Compare your heart to your heart. If he was the perpetrator, he would definitely leave no clues. For example, QQ, website IP, smart speakers, etc. You think you can think of following these clues to arrest people? Don't people think of this? What do you think? Wang Meng raised his eyebrows. The fifth comic story. Lin Xian looked at the electronic drawing board with a cold look in his eyes. If I'm not mistaken, this should be the last clue, and it is also a clue deliberately given by the perpetrator. You mean, the perpetrator used some method? Wang Meng's face changed, controlled by Wenhua, who was in the Public Security Bureau. Bai Wenhua was locked up in the detention room, with police guarding outside and surveillance inside. How could the perpetrator control Bai Wenhua? Boss, you said it the other way around. Lin Xian suddenly sneered. It's not the perpetrator who is controlling Bai Wenhua. I suspect that Bai Wenhua is remotely controlling someone to commit the crime. In an instant, Wang Meng forgot to breathe. He stared at Lin Xian in front of him, stunned for more than 10 seconds. Suddenly, he shuddered violently, with goosebumps all over his body. What did you find? What is the origin of the case? Lin Xuanru was asking himself. The future murder case, the horror comics, the 4 horror stories, the 4 supernatural events, all the clues are all related to Bai Wenhua. We are all guessing. Could it be that the perpetrator used some means to let Bai Wenhua draw those stories, or that Bai Wenhua drew these horror stories, and someone imitated the comic stories to commit crimes? But we all overlooked a problem. Is there such a possibility? Lin Xian looked at Wang Meng and said, the comics were indeed drawn by Bai Wenhua, and those horror events were also done by Bai Wenhua, and even the perpetrator we didn't catch was also Bai Wenhua's accomplice. Some people would say, didn't you test Bai Wenhua yourself, and also through micro-expressions, pupil changes, and heartbeats, tested twice, and there was no problem? Why do you still doubt that Bai Wenhua might remotely control others to commit crimes? There is a funny example. Kanga from the Wang family, a second-generation super-rich man, has all the women he wants? But one day, it was revealed that Kanga actually became a licker, licking women. Can you believe it? Even Kanga, who has no shortage of women, can be a licker. In this world, what else can't happen? Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kissy Zhong. Chapter 65. A special lounge with a bed. Bai Wenhua was lying on the bed, receiving an 4. Lin Xian, who was sitting beside the bed, was holding a drawing board and looking at the comics on it. The fifth horror story. Page 1 of the comic. On this day, a boy went to a class reunion. This is a group of young people who have just stepped out of campus and entered society. At the party, everyone was exchanging false greetings and praising each other for business. Yang Chen, you are good. I heard that you are doing well after graduation. Yes, Yang Chen, you used to be very honest and a sissy, but now you have joined a big company, which is awesome. Remember when we played basketball, Yang Chen, you were hit by the ball and sent to the infirmary. It's so funny. Yang Chen looked at the classmates in front of him with a smile on his face, and raised his glass. Come on, don't talk about the past, drink. The classmates were very respectful. Raise the glass. Page 2 of the comic. A girl sat there quietly, not wanting to drink. Facing classmates' persuasion to drink, she kept refusing. Yang Chen persuaded the girl, it's a rare class reunion, you can't not give face. The girl still refused to drink. As a result, Yang Chen scolded her, don't give face, if you don't want to drink, get out. The girl got up and left. Page 3 of the comic. On the way home, the girl was angry and confused. Yang Chen was her first love. Although they broke up later because of a misunderstanding, he didn't scold her like that. He still didn't give her face in front of classmates. But when the girl returned home, the police came to her door the next day. The police told her that all the classmates who attended the party last night were killed. The cause of death was that someone put rat poison in the wine. That is, rat poison. Page 4 of the comic. The girl heard the news with a look of horror and fear. Then there was an incomprehensible expression. The girl felt that something seemed to be wrong. She recalled the scene before she left in anger last night. She thought of the process of Yang Chen scolding her. If Yang Chen hadn't scolded her, how could she leave? If she hadn't left, would she have? Page 5 of the comic. The girl didn't tell the police about how she was scolded. At the same time, she also discovered something strange. The police didn't mention Yang Chen. Among the students who died of poisoning yesterday, Yang Chen wasn't there. It seemed that everyone had forgotten about Yang Chen's appearance. It was as if Yang Chen had never attended the party. Why? Page 6 of the comic. The girl sat in her bedroom. She discovered something very horrible. Those dead classmates should have been killed by Yang Chen. The reason was very simple. The students who were present that night had bullied Yang Chen more or less at school and caused some harm to Yang Chen. And she used to be Yang Chen's girlfriend and treated him very well. He deliberately scolded her away last night. And then. Page 7 of the comic. The girl was hesitating whether to call the police. But Yang Chen didn't kill her and let her go. This shows that Yang Chen still loves her. Can she really betray him? One night, the girl returned to her apartment. When she opened the door and walked into the hall, suddenly, she saw Yang Chen sitting on the sofa. Strangely, the girl did not feel scared. Seeing Yang Chen coming, he hugged her. Page 8 of the comic. 3 days later, someone called the police, and when the police arrived, the girl turned into a corpse that began to rot. She also left a suicide note. And this suicide note was more like a confession. She admitted all the facts of poisoning her classmates. Night. Yang Chen sat in an office building. It seemed that nothing had happened. The police did not come to the door. The poisoning case also ended with the girl's death. Page 9 of the comic. Midnight. Yang Chen stretched and sat up from behind his desk. There was no one in the company except him. Yang Chen, who had worked hard all day, was ready to leave the company. Suddenly, the company became dark. Weird things began to happen. The curtains around the office fell down automatically. and the door of the office slowly closed at this moment. Under Yang Cheng's horrified and creepy gaze, the office seemed to have turned into a huge cage. Then, a series of strange noises came from the dark. Page 10 of the comic. Yang Cheng's eyes were already full of fear. When he heard the sound, he picked up the utility knife on the desk in a panic. He wanted to use it to protect himself. But a figure slowly emerged behind him. A pair of eyes with resentment were not blinking, looking at him coldly. Yang Cheng seemed to feel something. Feeling a burst of cold air coming from behind him, his body began to tremble. Slowly turned around. In an instant, his eyes opened huge, looking stupidly behind him, looking at the terrifying figure. Page 11 of the comic. Yang Cheng found that he could not move. The terrifying figure was slowly approaching him, and slowly stood behind him. A cold hand grasped his wrist holding the utility knife. A strange scene appeared. A surveillance camera in the office was also filming this scene. But there was no terrifying figure in the view of the monitor. Only Yang Cheng himself was holding a utility knife, cutting his body. It looked so strange and terrifying, as if he was self-mutilating. Page 12 of the comic. Yang Cheng's body had been cut by the utility knife with countless wounds. His expression was so desperate, as if he had seen the end of his life and all hope had been shattered. As if he was swallowed by fear and could not extricate himself. Finally, Yang Cheng's arm slowly raised, cut his neck. The comic is over. Lin Xian put down the drawing board expressionlessly. He slowly closed his eyes again. His mind was boiling. Countless inferences emerged in his mind. Analyzing the horror story, what exactly do you want to express? At first glance, this is a revenge story. Yang Cheng poisoned his classmates, killed the girl, faked suicide out of fear of crime, and got away with it. As a result, the suspected girl turned into a ghost and came for revenge. But is it really like this? Obviously, there are too many loopholes in the comics. Anyone who knows a little bit about reasoning can feel that it is very unreasonable. First, were those classmates really poisoned by Yang Cheng? Second, was the girl really killed by Yang Cheng and fake suicide? Finally, is the ghost in the office really a girl? Finally, the last. Will people really become ghosts after death? Take a closer look, it's terrifying to think about it. It seems. Lin Xian looked at Bai Wenhua on the bed with a smile. Only you can give me the answer. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 66. Bai Wenhua woke up faintly, feeling pain all over his body. His lips trembled slightly, as if he wanted to shout, but only a weak whimper came out of his throat. His body was also trembling, as if enveloped by an invisible fear. What is he afraid of? Comics. Bai Wenhua even remembers the entire process of his painting. That feeling is like dreaming. In that dream, he became a madman. So crazy, so evil, like a complete mental illness. But, Bai Wenhua gritted his teeth tightly, his teeth chattering crazily. No, that's definitely not me. There is a phenomenon in psychology. A soft voice suddenly sounded from the side. Many people at some point suspect that they are possessed by ghosts. They feel that a ghost has controlled their bodies and done some strange things. And these things, sometimes you can remember, sometimes you can't. And in psychology, doctors think this is a disease similar to schizophrenia. It is said that this disease is mostly caused by the combined influence of biological genetics, family, society, and school factors. but whenever it appears, it is completely independent. Moment. Bai Wenhua sat up and looked at the figure sitting by the bed. When I first met you, I tested you twice without your knowledge. Lin Xian stared into Bai Wenhua's eyes with great interest. During those 2 tests, I found that nothing you said to the police was a lie, which made me very confused. Obviously all the incidents are related to you, but my intuition is also telling me, how can you be innocent? Why don't you know anything? But the amazing thing is, you obviously didn't lie, so why can you still draw those paintings? Is it really possible to predict the future in this world? Then I was thinking, is there a way in this world that can make you do a lot of things that you don't even know about without your knowledge? It's not a tongue twister, it's Lin Xian who thought of a possibility. What a person has done, he doesn't even know. So, is this really possible in the world? The answer is, yes. What are you talking about? Bai Wenhua's eyes were empty and absent-minded, as if he was stunned. Aren't you going to come out and meet me? The smile on Lin Xian's face disappeared, replaced by something cold and cold. Bai Wenhua's eyes widened and he looked stupidly at the handsome young man in front of him. Who is he talking to? Do you really think that if you don't come out, I won't know about your existence? Lin Xian sneered, it doesn't matter, I also know you don't dare to come out at this time. I also know that you will not truly appear until all your plans are completed. But one thing I'm curious about is that someone who can lay out such a thorough plan and almost commit a perfect crime can tell that you are not a psychopath, nor should you be a madman who takes pleasure in killing people. I even saw that you deliberately left some clues. What are you looking for? Bai Wenhua looked frightened. He looked at Lin Xian as if he were looking at a mentally ill person. However, the other party's words made him feel a little creepy for no reason. She was obviously talking to him, but it wasn't him. It was as if there was another person inside him. Get some rest. Lin Xian stood up and took a deep look at Bai Wenhua, who was in a daze. Perhaps, this may be your last little time, you must learn to cherish it. Finished. He walked to the door, opened it, and walked out. Bai Wenhua was left alone in bed. Turned into a statue. The whole person seemed to have lost his soul. Outside the door. Confirmed. Wang Meng looked at Lin Xian with a solemn expression. The members of the Special Criminal Cases Task Force were also looking at him. Can't confirm. Lin Xian shook his head, because he doesn't show the symptom himself, it is difficult for others to detect it. Even if he appears, if he is pretending to be Bai Wenhua, we still can't tell. We don't even know whether there is one or more hidden in his body. Individual. His words made everyone present change their expressions. What on earth is Lin Xian talking about? Many people have heard of ghost possession. Moreover, it has been spread since ancient times. Some people have even seen ghost possessions with their own eyes. Didn't you say that there are no ghosts in the world? There is indeed no ghost. But ghosts do exist. Because it's not a ghost. But, dual personality, multiple personalities. Multiple personality disorder refers to a person having 2 or more different personalities. If someone doesn't understand what personality is, they can also compare it to a soul. The most amazing thing is that these people have different personalities with different personalities. They seem to be completely different people, each an independent individual. And each personality has its own name, memory, traits, and behavior. And the scariest thing, most of the time, when the dominant personality is physically dominated by another personality, the dominant personality has almost no idea what the other personalities do. Unless, other personalities share their memories with the main personality. So, in ancient times, many people saw ghosts appearing on their bodies. In fact, when you see a familiar person, a second personality or multiple personalities appear. Different from the main character's performance, he mistakenly thought he was possessed by a ghost. Now, the task force on serious special criminal cases has been 99% confirmed. The suspect Bai Wenhua most likely has multiple personalities. Only this explanation can fully explain his abnormal behaviors and behaviors. It can also perfectly explain why he can draw those comics. On the contrary, I don't know why I can draw these comics. So, bullshit predicting the future. In fact, it is another personality that is doing the trick. And this personality is also involved in crimes. He also deliberately asked the protagonist to draw the entire crime process in order to confuse the audience. As a result, all criminal investigators felt that Bai Wenhua's protagonist did not lie and did not seem to be involved in the case. That's right. Bai Wenhua's protagonist is indeed innocent. Those who did those things were all sub-personalities. A moment. Everyone in the Severe Special Criminal Case Task Force looked at Lin Xian. At this moment, the entire task force has completely recognized him. They finally understood. Secretary Lu Yan, why did you recruit this young man here? The criminal investigation ability displayed by Lin Xian is too strong. It's so strong that it's hard to understand. More like an old detective than a group of them. Team member Ji Yang also told them some incredible news. Lin Xian only spent 1 day to learn from Professor Qian. Learned hypnosis. This can no longer be described as genius. This is such a monster. Are you scared? Everyone is indeed a little afraid of this little brother. Originally, everyone was laughing and joking, on equal footing, and even pretended to be seniors. Only now do you know that you can beat 10 of us? But think about it. On the other hand, the task force has such an awesome newcomer. It simply raised the overall strength of the task force by several levels. Therefore, no one dared to regard Lin Xian as a newcomer. Not to mention that just because you are young, you can act like a senior in front of others. This is the truth. If you want any status, you have to exchange it with your strength and fight it with your fists. Humans are also the most realistic creatures. Now, I give command to you. Wang Meng looked at Lin Xian with a serious expression. Next, you will command the task force. What's going on with this strong sense of déjà vu? Lin Xian looked confused. I became the temporary team leader again. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 67. What do they want to do? In a public security bureau lounge. Lin Xian, who was holding a cigarette in his mouth, holding a drawing board, and puffing away smoke, muttered to himself. With these people's sophisticated methods and IQ, they can deceive criminal investigators. It's so easy to kill someone, so why bother? The most interesting thing is, this case gave the impression that someone was trying to commit a perfect crime. However, they deliberately destroyed this perfection. Leave a trail of clues and lead the police. No, that's not right. Are they guiding? There is an invisible hand guiding the police. What to look for? Putting down the drawing board, Lin Xian looked at the 4 documents on the table in front of him. The 4 profiles represent 4 victims, killed in 4 man-made terrorist incidents. The ghost in the pond, the ghost seeking his life, the ghost on the bed, the supernatural incident in the funeral parlor. Through the identity information of the 4 deceased people, we can see a common point. Age. The 4 deceased were all young and middle-aged people between the ages of 29 and 30. But the strange thing is that there is no connection between the 4 deceased people at all. They don't know each other and have no communication. It can be said that they don't know each other at all. It happened to be involved in the same case again. After flicking the ashes in the ashtray, Lin Xian took out his cell phone and looked at the time. 4 hours have passed since Bai Wenhua drew his 5th horror comic. So in 6 days, will there be a 5th horrific incident similar to the comic plot? The Special Criminal Case Task Force took action, and the Shanghai police were also fully cooperating. They are finding things according to the picture. To find the location, people, and perpetrators of the fifth terrorist incident that may occur. Just as Lin Xian guessed. All clues to the first 4 terrorist incidents have been cut off by the perpetrators. No trace to be found. It's really amazing, Lin Xian had to be convinced. It was the first time I encountered such a powerful and sophisticated criminal with high IQ. However, Locard's law of exchange of matter is infallible. Lin Xian's eyes flashed coldly. As long as you dare to commit a crime, you will definitely leave clues. The door to the lounge was slowly pushed open. Professor Qian strolled in. The other party is not cooperative. Mr. Qian sat next to Lin Xian. His eyes fell on the cigarette case on the table, his eyelids twitched. Hypnosis cannot be performed. Pretty much what I thought. Lin Xian nodded, looked at Mr. Qian, and then at the cigarette case. Smiling, he pushed the cigarette case to Mr. Qian. You also smoke? I can't smoke. Mr. Qian's eyes were complicated, but I know this kind of cigarette, the 132 cigarette making team. I wipe. Lin Xian was surprised. His expression became serious, and there was a little bit of anxiety. Mu Qinjian told him that he knew someone who smoked this kind of smoke. Almost all are insiders. Do not think too much. Qian Lao smiled and said, I am not the kind of person you think. I just saw this kind of cigarette from an old friend. Unfortunately, my old friend has passed away more than 10 years ago. I didn't expect that you, a little guy, is still a boss. Please stop making trouble. Lin Xian smiled awkwardly. The cigarette was given by a friend. Ha ha. Qian Lao laughed, with a look on his face that said, do you think I believe it or not? Have your friends ever told you that only some high-level people can smoke this kind of cigarette? I really am not. Lin Xian couldn't laugh or cry, and was dumbfounded. What does it mean to be a person of rank? Mu Qinjian didn't tell him these things when she gave him cigarettes. Are you interested in continuing to go to school? Mr. Qian put away his smile and looked serious. Are you going to study psychology and hypnotism? Lin Xian. Are you always talking to me? Are you serious? In 3 to 5 years, I can guarantee you a doctorate in psychology. As for how high you can rise to in the future, it depends on you. Qian Lao stood up and patted him on the shoulder. Come to me when you think about it. Lin Xian was a little confused in the wind and stared blankly at Mr. Qian's leaving figure. It's like living in a dream. After a while, Lin Xian came to his senses and laughed dumbly. This is the legendary life-changing opportunity, right? Some people seize these opportunities and soar from there. Some people miss these opportunities and spend their lives doing nothing. Qian Lao is gone. A great professor and a master of psychology. How could I keep helping you solve the case? People have jobs, lives, and many things to be busy with. Lin Xian and Wang Meng personally sent Qian Lao to the plane back to Beijing. Facing Mr. Qian's departure, he looked slightly disappointed. Lin Xian could only respond with a sunny smile. Your kindness is appreciated. Feel sorry. I just want to be a little policeman. Back in the lounge, Lin Xian shook off all the distracting thoughts in his mind. Pick up the drawing board again with the 5 horror comic stories on it. Previous life. Lin Xian also fantasized about it when reading novels. One day I will be reborn and be as awesome as a pig's foot in a novel. It's very satisfying to be a powerful person with a harem and pretend to be cool when you have nothing to do. In the end, he was really reborn, but reality slapped him hard in the face. My body is strong, but it seems useless when faced with some situations. If you want to solve the case, it cannot be solved by having strong force. I still don't believe it. Lin Xian's mind was focused on the 5 horror stories on the drawing board. Come on, let's hurt each other. For a whole day. Lin Xian didn't eat, didn't rest, and smoked 2 packs of cigarettes. As if he was possessed by a demon, he held the drawing board and looked at the comics. The faint moonlight shone through the lounge window, sprinkled on the cold and hard floor, casting mottled shadows. The space seemed to be shrouded in a quiet darkness. It seemed particularly mysterious and silent. Suddenly, Lin Xian looked up and widened his tired eyes. Excitement and joy appeared on his face. So that's how it is. I know what you want to do. What did he find? The 5 horror stories actually have a main line, not an independent story. It is very likely a revenge incident. Someone is avenging something someone did back then. And some scenes are restored. The Pond Ghost, it tells the story of a girl who was killed in a pond. Ghostly Demand, it tells the story of a girl who was murdered in a laboratory. Ghostly Sleep Paralysis, it tells the story of a man who died in his bed. Funeral Home Paranormal Event, it tells the story of a car accident. Lin Xian had a bold idea. These 4 people who died in these 4 man-made paranormal events. Is it possible? They have all done this kind of murder before? And a certain perpetrator is returning the favor. In this case, why not just kill them and be done with it? Lin Xian thought of a possibility. There were more than 4 people who did these things back then. There is another person, or someone else, who has not been found. The perpetrator knew that some people would definitely see the suspect Bai Wenhua's comics. So, the perpetrator wanted to use Bai Wenhua's hand to lead this person out. As a result, he failed. This person did not appear. The perpetrator thought of the police after searching hard and fruitlessly. Want to use the power of the police to help him find it? Then, the 5th horror comic appeared. It was for the police to see. What was it telling the police? Is this reasoning valid? Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 68. If the reasoning is valid. The 4 dead did not know each other. How did they get together back then? The perpetrator who killed them. Before. How did they find them? Lin Xian's mind was spinning like a turbofan, and it was even more like carp fighting for food. His brain was boiling like seawater. Suddenly, it seemed as if lightning struck, splitting all the fog. Lin Xian's eyes widened with a look of surprise on his face. Is it because of the suspect Bai Wenhua? Could it be that this Bai Wenhua was also a participant back then? The perpetrator used some method to make him one of his own? If so, it also explains why Bai Wenhua could draw those 4 supernatural and terrifying comic stories. It was also him who told the perpetrator the identity information of other accomplices. For example, Uziali, the deceased in the funeral home supernatural incident, is his friend. The 4 dead who did not know each other may not know each other. But, they can have a common friend. Bai Wenhua? Still not right. If that's the case, they want to use the police. Why not tell the police directly? Why take off your pants to fart? It's unnecessary. When Lin Xian was about to enter a rigorous reasoning state again. Suddenly, a hand patted his shoulder. You can't do this, your body can't stand it, eat something. I'm not hungry. Lin Xian looked at Wang Meng and was about to explain something. Gurgle, the stomach was already groaning. Okay, he's hungry. The 2 walked out of the lounge and passed by the detention room where Bai Wenhua was detained. Nodded to the criminal police on guard and walked towards the elevator. Coincidentally, the elevator door opened. A female police officer came out with a special dinner plate. Seeing the special dinner plate and tableware, Lin Xian and Wang Meng knew that this was prepared for Bai Wenhua. The female police officer smiled and nodded to the 2. Lin Xian glanced at each other and prepared to walk into the elevator with Wang Meng. Suddenly, Lin Xian raised his foot and paused in the air. His posture was very strange, as if he was in a state of immobilization. Wang Meng, who entered the elevator, was startled and asked in surprise, "What's wrong?" After his footsteps fell, Lin Xian turned his neck and looked at the back of the policewoman, with a cold chill in his eyes. "Something is wrong." Huh. Wang Meng was stunned, walked out of the elevator, and looked at the back of the policewoman. Police uniform, epaulets, hat. Hat? Why would she wear a hat? Although the police need to disguise their uniforms neatly. But in daily life, even if they are wearing police uniforms, few people wear hats, which is inconvenient. Unless it is a formal occasion, they will wear a police hat. After Lin Xian's reminder, the policewoman not only wears a hat, which is strange. Even the epaulets are wrong. First-class superintendent? Under normal circumstances without meritorious service, a policeman needs 7 years of police service to be promoted to first-class superintendent. There is a prerequisite, which is after the reform of police ranks. After joining the police force, the police service starts from the rank of superintendent. If you join the police force before 2016, before the rank of superintendent. There are also first-class and second-class police officer ranks. So on this basis, add 6 years. It can be said that from becoming a formal police officer, the police service starts from the second-class police officer. In the absence of meritorious performance, if a police officer wants to be promoted to the first-class superintendent, it takes 13 years of police service. Most female police officers are civilians, doing internal work, and rarely go out on field duty. So their promotion process will be very slow. Most of them rely on police service to be promoted. And the female police officer in front of me looks about 28 or 29 years old. The police service is at most 6 or 7 years. Even if she has made merit once, she can't have such a high police rank. Unless she has made merit twice, the minimum is the third-class merit. So, why is she a first-class superintendent? There is another point. The police uniform of the female police officer in front of me seems to be a little ill-fitting. The women's suit pants are obviously a little shorter. The strangest thing is that her half-long hair is draped over her shoulders. There are very strict rules and regulations in the police force. Male police officers are usually not allowed to have long hair unless it is required for work. Female police officers' hair length cannot be longer than shoulders. Even if you like long hair, you must put it up when working. Who has ever seen a female police officer dare to let her hair down when wearing a uniform? Combining these anomalies, there is only one answer. This female police officer is pretending. At this time, she is holding a meal tray. The meal tray that is about to be given to the detention room where the suspect Bai Wenhua is detained. Its purpose is obvious. Wang Meng's face changed instantly. But he quickly turned his head to look at Lin Xian. Just a passing by can find the abnormality. This little brother's eyes are poisonous enough. However, when he looked over, he only had time to see a residual image. Lin Xian was like a cheetah that entered the foraging state silently. In an instant, it was ejected. In Wang Meng's hazy vision, he could only barely see a shadow. When the haziness becomes clear, Lin Xian is already standing in front of the policewoman. The policewoman paused, with a surprised expression on her face. She seemed to not understand why this person appeared in front of her. Lin Xian was staring at the policewoman's eyes. He saw her pupils shrinking rapidly. At the same time, the super hearing also heard the policewoman's heart beating violently. Lin Xian's sense of smell also smelled two strange smells. One was the smell of gun oil. The other was the smell of human blood. But there was no blood or guns on the policewoman. "What's your name?" Lin Xian said coldly. "My name is..." The surprise on the policewoman's face turned into confusion. As soon as she opened her mouth, Lin Xian's face showed disappointment. Originally, he thought that this policewoman was the perpetrator in disguise. However, he had heard the perpetrator's words through the smart speaker. The voice can change, but the tone cannot change. So this woman is not the perpetrator. It doesn't matter who you are. I will only give you one chance. Lin Xian stared into the policewoman's eyes. Hold your head with both hands and kneel down. The policewoman's expression finally changed. Became cold, and her eyes became cold. Suddenly, the plate in her hand flew up instantly and hit Lin Xian in the face. When the plate left her hand, a silver light appeared in her hand. It stabbed at Lin Xian's neck. The bloody smell came from the dagger. At the same time, the policewoman's other arm swung quickly. A small pistol came out of her sleeve and was held in her hand. Pointed at Wang Meng, who was running not far away. Prepared to pull the trigger. It must be said that her movements were very fast. She was able to attack two people separately in an instant. Unfortunately, snap. A hand grasped the wrist of the policewoman holding the knife. Click. The palm holding the dagger was broken in an instant. The dagger also disappeared at this moment. Appeared on a slender white palm. The knife flashed. Click. The policewoman's hand holding the pistol was broken at the wrist. The whole process took less than a second. The danger was lifted. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun. Chapter 69. 1 second. Some people can't even react. For example, Wang Meng and the criminal policeman in front of the detention room were both stunned. Lin Xian didn't expect it. The woman pretending to be a policewoman in front of her was extremely cruel, regardless of the pain in her hands. He jumped up instantly. A flying kick hit Lin Xian's head. Ah! Lin Xian sneered. The woman's flying kick instantly became slow motion in his eyes. Lin Xian raised his hand casually and pulled back. The arm suddenly became like a taut bow. Punch. Bang. A punch hit the woman's calf. Crack, there was a crisp sound. The calf had a strange bend. Like a broken chopstick. Ah! The heartbreaking pain made the woman unable to bear it anymore and she screamed. But not before she hit the ground. Lin Xian's palm has already been grasped out. Snapped. Grabbing the woman's neck. Just like picking flowers, plucked them from mid-air. He waved his arm casually again. The woman's body flew out in an instant. It was like being hit by a truck traveling at high speed. Bang, the whole body was slapped hard against the wall of the corridor. Like a fallen mural, it sticks to the wall and slides down. Like a statue. From when a woman took action, to what she is now. The whole process didn't seem to take more than 3 seconds. Wang Meng and the detective looked at Lin Xian with horror in their eyes. They swallowed hard, trembling from the bottom of their hearts. How cruel! But a more brutal scene appeared. Lin Xian raised his thigh and lowered his foot. Click. The woman's other intact calf. Being trampled to death. Ah! A woman in a coma woke up in unbearable pain. He let out a miserable wail. Lin Xian bent down and picked up the woman like a chicken. Bang! He punched the woman in the abdomen. The scream stopped suddenly. Don't scream. Lin Xian looked coldly at the woman whose mouth was open and could not even breathe. Now, answer me a few questions. The woman recovered from the severe pain, and her face had long since turned pale. I don't know whether he was frightened by Lin Xian's cruel methods or whether he was in pain. My whole body was shaking like chaff. Many police officers who heard strange noises and screams came running to the corridor. When they saw the scene in front of them, they were all stunned. What's your name? Ignoring the police officers, Lin Xian looked directly at the woman. Yuan, Shan. A woman with an earthy face and a strange accent. It's like a foreigner speaking Longguo. Why pretend to be a police officer? Lin Xian continued to ask. Yes, Brother Jiang asked me to come. Yuan Shan answered tremblingly. Brother Jiang. Lin Xian frowned, who are you and this strong brother? I am. Yuan Shan took a breath and endured the pain, hit the house. Fighting, Lin Xian was startled, and his expression changed in a blink of an eye. There is an idiom, rob one's home and rob one's home. Many people mistakenly think that this idiom refers to gangs going to people's homes to rob their property. Actually not. Fighting is a profession. Yu Chun, seeing a girl pouting at the sky and throwing herself on the ground is not as weak as robbing a house and robbing a house. Point out that the thugs are a group of strong men. What they often do is to use people's money to eliminate disasters, rob the rich and give to the poor. How did this robbery occur? Rich people in ancient times kept all their gold and silver at home. This is where the idiom rob one's home and rob one's home comes from. Last question. Lin Xian looked at her coldly, are you here to kill Bai Wenhua? Yuan Shan lowered her eyes and did not dare to look up. Default. Lin Xian casually threw her to the ground. Became thoughtful. Someone wants to kill Bai Wenhua? Is he the person who committed 4 consecutive murders? No. A cold light flashed in Lin Xian's eyes. He had already reasoned it before. Someone is seeking revenge, or revenge. So he did 4 cases in a row and killed 4 enemies from back then. The deceased in each case were people who had done something back then. Lin Xian analyzed that there may be more than 4 people in this group, and there may be more people. He suspected that Bai Wenhua was one of them, but he didn't know why he rebelled. Instead, they teamed up with the perpetrators to deal with one of their own. After killing 4, they could not find the remaining ones. That's why I want to use the police to help them find people. Now it seems that his reasoning is infinitely close to the truth. Because, someone came to beat me. We must kill the traitor Bai Wenhua. What a powerful method, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Are you fishing? Bai Wenhua is the bait? As long as someone dares to come to the police station to take action, clues will inevitably be revealed. Then, the perpetrator is following the clues. So, how did the perpetrator get information from the police station? Lin Xian's face suddenly changed color. Suddenly he raised his hand and slapped himself. Everyone who saw the scene was stunned. No wonder all the police can't find you, no wonder you are so familiar with the police's methods of handling cases, no wonder you know every step of our actions. Lin Xian's eyes were ferocious, and he gritted his teeth, so. You are also a policeman. In his previous life, Lin Xian heard an old criminal detective tell such a story. There was a man whose parents were killed. But he couldn't find the murderer. How could he not avenge the murder of his relatives? But he was alone and wanted to find the murderer, which was like looking for a needle in a haystack. This man was very smart and didn't go to college directly. He repeated his studies, took the college entrance examination, and applied for the police academy. After that, he successfully became a policeman. It took 4 years to use the special channels of the police to finally find the enemy. Destroy his entire family, leaving no chickens or dogs alive. In his previous life, Lin Xian just listened to such things as stories. But he never thought of it. In this life, someone really became a policeman for revenge. Do you want to dig him out now? Lin Xian's expression was gloomy and uncertain. No. He was going to confirm one thing first, and then consider how to deal with this person. Because he knew that this person would not run away. Zhang Yongjiang, 35 years old, nicknamed Brother Jiang, from Shanghai, idle in society. A policeman reported the suspect's information. Only halfway through, Lin Xian waved his hand to interrupt the other party and looked at Wang Meng. Wang Meng took out his mobile phone and made a call. Soon, the most authentic information about Zhang Yongjiang. was transmitted to Wang Meng's mobile phone. Lin Xian took it and looked at it, his expression became cold. What idol in society? This Zhang Yongqiang is a big brother in the underworld. Not only does he have a group of minions under him. I heard that he also has contacts with foreign countries. He often helps some people and settles some things. For example, Yuan Shan, who was beaten and arrested by Lin Xian. He is a foreigner from Baibei. He is a killer trained by a certain organization since childhood. Because he helped Zhang Yongqiang do things. Seeing that he was generous, he stayed in the country. She became a beater under Zhang Yongqiang. Zhang Yongqiang has 5 beaters like her. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiunzhong. Chapter 70. Magic City, Lido Villa District. The silence of the night is like a huge black satin. The moonlight is like water, sprinkled in the quiet villa area. Lin Xian is looking at a villa in the distance. The suspect Zhang Yongqiang's home. At this time, the suspect is at home, and his 5 men who beat him also live here. Turning his head, Lin Xian looked at a hill 200 meters away. There is a sniper. Guosu. When he first met this man, Lin Xian couldn't figure out why the other party could give him a very dangerous feeling. Until tonight. Guosu opened a suitcase, took out a variety of weapons, and was fully armed. Finally, he carried an exaggerated sniper rifle. Lin Xian understood the reason. This is a master of playing with guns. As for how high he is, he doesn't know. As long as Guosu has a gun on him, the danger that can threaten him will appear. When Guosu is fully armed, with a pistol on his leg, a submachine gun on his chest, and a sniper on his back, that sense of danger has doubled. I remember that when he was in the courtyard of the Mu sisters, he pestered Lao Wu to learn military skills. He also asked Lao Wu about the deeds of the king of soldiers in the army. Lao Wu told him that there were too many king of soldiers. The best fighter in the army can be said to be the king of soldiers. Those with excellent military skills can also be king of soldiers. Some soldiers with excellent shooting skills are also king of soldiers. Lao Wu warned Lin Xian that other king of soldiers could compete with him with his current strength. But when he met the king of soldiers who were good at playing with guns, Lao Wu only told Lin Xian 3 words, run quickly. Because this kind of person has only a pistol in his hand, as long as he is within 50 meters. No matter what weapon you have in your hand. If you dare to show up, you will be killed instantly. This kind of person has a nickname, Gun King. Gun King. Lin Xian's eyes became hot. After rebirth. In close combat, he is almost invincible. The only shortcoming is shooting. It's a pity that Lao Wu didn't take him to play with guns for some reason and didn't teach him to shoot. They said he was too dangerous, and he would never be allowed to use the weapons in the army in his life. Now there is an opportunity in front of him. Lin Xian will definitely cherish it. Action. Wang Meng's voice sounded in his ears. Lin Xian came back to his senses and looked at the villa. A group of special police surrounded the villa. The door was smashed open and the special police rushed in. Followed by Wang Meng and others. Lin Xian had to stay outside because he was not qualified to carry a gun for the time being. Suddenly, a burst of gunfire rang out, accompanied by the roar of a sniper rifle in the distance. The battle is over. The kind of back-and-forth gunfights in the movies are actually quite ridiculous. The criminals still want to resist. You can be killed by a pile of bullets, and all kinds of grenades and shock blasts. The sniper will blow your head off in seconds. A group of small criminals, what can you use to compete with the state's violent machine? When the suspect Zhang Yongqiang was brought out, he was scared to pee his pants. His thugs and lackeys were either shot dead or surrendered. This is the most realistic modern police gangster gunfight. Lin Xian was very excited, looking at the suspect in front of him whose hands and feet were tied up with police cable ties. Zhang Yongqiang's face was pale. Sweat beads were soaked on his forehead, and his legs were shaking like sieves. Those eyes could not see the ferocity of the big brother on the road at all. Very clear, very frightened, like a lamb to be slaughtered. "Who told you to send thugs to the police station to kill people?" Lin Xian asked with a smile. Zhang Yongqiang's body shook even more violently. But he gritted his teeth and didn't say anything. "I like your stubborn temper." Lin Xian raised his thumb. "Please hold on." "Zhang Yongqiang? Hold on to what?" "A sniper rifle, like a heavy sword, smashed down. Bang, crack. It hit Zhang Yongqiang's knee." "Ah!" Zhang Yongqiang let out a miserable howl. Guo Su slowly retracted the sniper rifle. "Where is the civilized law enforcement we agreed on?" Lin Xian grinned and looked at Guo Su with a smile. "You are wrong to do this." Guo Su. Looking at Lin Xian, it seems like he is looking at a fool. "You just broke a woman's limbs. How dare you say that to me?" Puff. That was the laughter of the team members. "Stop it." Wang Meng was amused by Lin Xian's words. "That is what colleagues in ordinary case handling units should do. It has nothing to do with us. If necessary, our team can apply to mobilize special forces to cooperate. Dispatching a special task force for serious criminal cases is equivalent to reporting to the emperor. The superior only wants the truth of a case. They won't ask you what means you used. This process must be fast. There is no time to waste. Don't think about dragging the suspect to confess. Any means that can make the suspect confess quickly, they will use it." Damn, is the power so great? Lin Xian was shocked. If the special forces were dispatched, it would no longer be a case of solving the case. It would be a case of annihilation. Zhang Yongqiang confessed. It was a friend of his who came to him and gave him 5 million. As for the real name of this friend, Zhang Yongqiang had forgotten it. He only knew that his nickname was Xiaolong. "I heard that he has been mixed up in recent years, doing dirty work for a second generation." The dirty work here refers to dirty activities. Many rich and powerful people have such people around them. In the eyes of the public, these rich and powerful people must be clean, bright, and positive. Those who understand, understand. Then, a painter was called. Painter, the giant panda of the police, a technical talent. Can draw a portrait of the suspect based on someone else's oral description. Through Zhang Yongqiang's oral description. 3 hours, a sketch portrait was placed in front of everyone. Then check the big database and start looking for the suspect's information. Age, height, characteristics, compare one by one in the National Identity Information Big Database. Wait until someone with a similar appearance, figure, and age as the sketch portrait is found. Take it to Zhang Yongqiang and let him identify it one by one. The suspect's identity information has been found. Jin Yunlong, male, 31 years old, from Shanghai, has a criminal record. The arrest operation begins at 3:12 in the morning. In a residential area in Shanghai, a certain apartment building. Room 401. Bang, the security door was violently knocked open by the door knocker. 4 special police officers rushed in, followed by Lin Xian and Wang Meng. Suddenly, Lin Xian heard the sound of glass breaking in the bedroom, and his face changed. Not good. No longer caring about anything, he rushed out. Appeared in front of the bedroom. With a bang, the door was smashed. In the wood chips, Lin Xian saw a person and a smashed window. The person was standing on the windowsill and jumped out. Lin Xian cursed in his heart. He bounced off and landed on the windowsill. Snap, he grabbed a neck. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief and carried the other person back to the bedroom. Bang! He smashed the other person to the ground, and Lin Xian looked at the man screaming on the ground. Damn it, you dare to jump from the fourth floor. Have you paid your taxes, kid?